Today's the auspicious Pandava Nirjala Kadashi. I won't take. This is a conversation between Rameshwar and Srila Prabhupada. Rameshwar, on the calendar it says it is Bhima Kadashi. Srila Prabhupada, Bhima Kadashi, yes. Rameshwar, so I've been told that if one fasts on Bhima Kadashi, that it is like fasting on all the Ekadashis. Is that true? Srila Prabhupada, yes. Ekadashi is meant for fasting, either Bhima or Arjuna. But we cannot fast. Therefore, we have to take little fruits, and otherwise, Ekadashi means fasting. Tamal Krishna. If it is possible, should we go without eating at all? Srila Prabhupada, yes, but don't lie down and sleep. It's from a morning walk in 1976 in Los Angeles. Srila Prabhupada ki. Pandava Nirjala Kadashi ki. Reading from somewhere in Prabhupada River Well-Wisher. Okay, if we read this before, just tell me. I don't think we have. Srila Prabhupada had no regular doctor. From time to time, a Kaviraj might show up to give a diagnosis and some medicine. But Prabhupada wouldn't take it very seriously. He didn't consider these Kavirajas very qualified, and if the medicine tasted bitter or produced any bad effect, he would stop taking it. Everything was up to Krishna, and a doctor couldn't change that. Prabhupada mentioned the relative merits of Ayurvedic and homeopathic medicines, but like any other mundane topic, medicine was something he showed little interest in. The days went by peacefully, with mild, pleasant breezes always passing through Srila Prabhupada's room. His intelligence was always sharp and alert, yet his health did not improve. Bhavananda Goswami had come from Mayapur and had been intimately serving Srila Prabhupada, but he had to return to Bengal for important preaching duties. Srila Prabhupada said that there was no doubt that Bhavananda was the best at giving massage and taking personal care of his spiritual master, but the personal servant's duties were not as important as preaching. Srila Prabhupada would repeatedly mention that the ISKCON leaders should prepare to carry on without his direct management. One day, he was recalling some of the incidents of his first year in New York City, when suddenly he began speaking of the future. Don't spoil it, he said. Now it is up to you, my senior men. I can pass away at any moment. My health is not good. I am an old man. It is not surprising. Now you GBC young boys, you are American, expert, you have all intelligence. So don't spoil it. Let the movement go forward more and more. You have a lot of nice places. Don't be anxious for me. And even if I go, where is the harm? I have given my ideas and directions in my books. Just you have to see it. I think I have done my part, so not. Do you think so or not? Yes, you have done everything. Still, we want the whole Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada. That will be done, said Prabhupada. Even if it is not full, there is no loss. You are competent. You can take charge. Now you can take charge of all the money and let me remain free from management. My only request is don't spoil it. I have sometimes chastised so that it may not be spoiled. Prabhupada said that for him to see things were going on nicely under his ISKCON leaders would make him happy. And I will go on writing books. That will be all right, he said. There was no need for him to eat anymore. Since he was not physically active, there was no purpose in taking a lunch of chapatis and rice. Giriraj expressed that it was a pleasure of Prabhupada's devotees to see him eat and relish prasadam. But Srila Prabhupada disregarded this and said that the brain could be kept active just by a little fruit or even milk. Srila Prabhupada ki. I heard one devotee saying that because ISKCON is seen as Prabhupada's body, in a sense, by serving ISKCON, we're personally serving Prabhupada. see is very much his mood as well, that rather than rendering personal service to him, to render service to the mission is just as dear. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 18, entitled Duty Vows to Kill King Indra. And we're on text 74. Adanam Bhagavata Ihamana Nirashisha Ye Tu Nichanti Api Parang Te Swartakushala Smritaha Aratanam Bhagavata Ihamana Nirashisha Yetu Nechancha Piparang Te Swartakushala Smrita Aratanam Bhagavata Iyamana Nirashisha Yetu Nechancha Piparang Te Swata Kushala Smrita Aratanam Bhagavata Iyamana Nirashisha Yetu Nechancha Piparang Te Swata Kushala Smrita Aratanam Bhagavata Iyamana Nirashisha Yetu Nechancha Piparang Te Swata Kushala Smrita Aratanam Bhagavata Ihamana Nirashisha Yetu Nechancha Piparang Te Swata Kushala Smrita Aradhanam, the worship, Bhagavata, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ihamana, being interested in. Nirashisha, without material desires. Ye, those who indeed, Naichanti, do not desire. Api, even. Param, liberation. Te, they. Swarta, in their own interests. Kushala, expert. Smrita, are considered. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Although those who are interested only in worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead do not desire anything material from the Lord, and do not even want liberation, Lord Krishna fulfills all their desires. Please repeat. All those who are interested only in worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead do not desire anything material from the Lord, and do not even want liberation. Lord Krishna fulfills all their desires. Purport. When Dhruva Maharaj saw Lord Vishnu, he declined to take any benedictions from him, for he was fully satisfied by seeing the Lord. Nonetheless, the Lord is so kind that because Dhruva Maharaj in the beginning had desired a kingdom greater than his father's, he was promoted to Dhruva Loka, the best planet in the universe. Therefore, in the Shastra it is said, Akama sarvakamo va moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena yajita purusham param. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he is full of material desires, free from material desires, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the Personality of Godhead. This is from Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 3, Verse 10. one should engage in full devotional service. Then, even though he has no desires, whatever desires he previously had can all be fulfilled simply by his worship of the Lord. Actual devotee does not desire even liberation. Anyabilasita shunyam. The Lord, however, fulfills the desire of the devotee by awarding him opulence that will never be destroyed. A karmi's opulence is destroyed, but the opulence of a devotee is never destroyed. A devotee becomes more and more opulent as he increases his devotional service to the Lord. Om Jnanatamrandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmritam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shititana Manobhishtam Stapitam Dena Bhutare Swayam Rupa Karamayam Daranti Swaparantikam Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvitam Savadutam Bharijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padhan Sahagana Ladita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dino Bando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyanepacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, I'm seeking the blessings of the assembled Vaishnavas. They can fulfill all desires. I pray that I may speak for my own purification primarily and for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada and the deities, and not for many feelings of false prestige which enter my tiny little head. Although those who are interested only in worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead do not desire anything material from the Lord and do not even want liberation, Lord Krishna fulfills all their desires. So here we're sort of reaching almost the culmination of this pastime. Diti has some feelings of revenge that she wanted to satisfy. She's seen that even though it was due to her sinful activities, she received 2 demoniac sons. Then these sons were killed on the petition of Indra, and therefore she has feelings of revenge. She wants to get back at Indra. But because her spiritual master, her husband Kashyapa Muni, is very intelligent, he managed to satisfy her desire for revenge in such a way that she became purified, and so became a Vaishnava. And we see that now, although previously she had she's the aunt of Indra. Because Indra is the son of Aditi, who's Diti's sister. And previously, Diti had lots of, harsh feelings towards Indra. And Indra also had lots of harsh feelings towards her. Indra was willing to enter inside her womb and, cut her embryo into 7 pieces and then 7 pieces again, which is not your normally family relationships, but possibly only because most people don't have these potencies. If they had the ability to do it, then who knows what they would do to each other. But now Lord Indra and Diti, they're on good terms. Ultimately, all because of worshipping Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is the super soul within the heart, and we see this when we engage in service to Krishna. Lord Vishnu is, there's no difference between Lord Vishnu and Krishna. Lord Vishnu is just Krishna at the office. Prabhupada said like this one time. Krishna doesn't deal so specifically with aspects of, cosmic creation, maintenance, things, all done by his expansions. Krishna is, he's carefree. He doesn't worry so much about the the material creation, as it were. But through his expansion of Lord Vishnu, then that's how it's taking place. But just simply by worshipping Lord Vishnu, the super soul in the heart is pleased, and therefore everyone else is pleased. And so Prabhupada, straight away in the purport, he goes to the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj, his very famous pastime for the 4th canto, because here the verse describing, even if one does not desire anything material, Lord Krishna fulfills all their desires. And Dhruva Maharaj is a very, very key example of this. I can briefly recount the pastime. Dhruva Maharaj, he's a young boy, but he's 5 years old, but he's a Kshatriya, he's a warrior, and he comes from very good lineage. I think his great grandfather is Lord Brahma, and his grandfather is Swayambhuva Manu, and his father is Maharaj Uttanapad, and then him. So he's no ordinary 5-year-old. He's like the emblem of a Kshatriya, what the Kshatriya is like. And so his father has 2 wives, Suniti and the names are too similar. I forget which one is which, but Surichi and Suniti. And so when Dhruva Maharaj is trying to get into the lap of his father, a 5-year-old, he wants to get in the lap of his father. Whereas the other boys are there, and the wife of his stepbrother or his half brother says, "You're not allowed to sit in the lap of the king," and he becomes very he's very offended by this. He's very upset. He's a little boy, he wants to sit in the lap of his father, but he's advised that if he wants to take the position of a king, basically he'd have to worship Lord Vishnu and take birth again. And so, asking advice from his mother, he goes to the forest with so much determination. This intense. This is the main thing about Dhruva Maharaj. He's got intense desire, intense determination. And therefore, Narada Muni comes along. He's Prabhupada describes actually that Narada Muni has the ability to know what everyone is thinking, just as the super soul does. Narada Muni he's empowered by Bhakti Shakti. And so Narada Muni comes along and takes the position of his spiritual master. And first of all, he says to Dhruva Maharaj, he says, "Dhruva, you're just a little boy. Go home. You're just upset. Just go home. Don't worry about this." And Dhruva Maharaj is not taking that at all. He's got no patience to deal with someone telling him he's a little boy and that he shouldn't care about these things. He wants a kingdom greater than his grandfather and his great grandfather. And so Narada Muni gives him a second instruction. He tells him, all these things are relating simply to the 3 modes of material nature. You're not this body. You're not this mind. You're not a Kshatriya. You're not the son of a king. You have to become transcendental to all this. This is what he says. Narada Muni gives him transcendental knowledge, right there and then. It's very interesting what Dhruva Maharaj says. He says, my dear Narada Muni, you're right. What you're saying is true, but I cannot accept it, because if I was a Brahmin, maybe I could accept what you're saying, but I have this such passionate Kshatriya spirit that even though I can see that you're telling me the correct truth, you're telling me transcendental knowledge, I won't be pacified by that just now. It's very interesting. Oftentimes, I've heard the example that we can tell people you're perhaps on book distributions, especially at Christmas time. There's people walking down, they got about 6 bags of shopping in this hand and the 5 in this hand and things over their shoulders. They come along. I say, "Oh, hello, yeah, we're the monks from the Eco Farm, and we're just passing out books on meditation and things." "Oh, that's nice." So what's it about? Well, it's just explaining. People right now, they're not happy because everybody knows just by buying stuff you're not going to be happy. Happiness is an internal thing. And they go, yeah, I believe that. That's definitely true. And you're like, you see, there's like a disparity there because they've got they literally cannot carry anything more, but they somehow intellectually think. And this is what I guess in modern terms is called a cognitive dissonance. You know, we simultaneously know one thing but are acting in a completely opposite way. Whereas Dhruva Maharaj, he was more intelligent in that. He was saying, actually, I know what you're saying is true, but I know how strongly my desires and my ambitions are just now. Therefore, I want to achieve these desires. I want to get a kingdom greater than my grandfather and great-grandfather. So Narada Muni says, okay, and he gives him this process of Astanga Yoga. You make a deity out of clay, you chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. He eats only like fruits and roots for every 3 days, and then only some dry grass every 6 days, and then he only breathes once every 12 days. A 5-year-old boy, he's standing with his leg, at least in the picture in the Bhagavatam, he's standing with his leg in the tree position, and he's breathing once every 12 days. And ultimately, his austerity is so much so that the entire universe begins to suffocate. The demigods cannot breathe. The weight of his foot on the earth is actually pushing it down, it's described. It's very, very interesting. Because the demigods, they cannot breathe, they petition, and Lord Indra, eventually he goes to... does he go directly to Lord Vishnu? Does Indra go to Vishnu, or he goes to Narada Muni? I think maybe Lord Indra goes to Lord Vishnu and says, okay, we cannot breathe. Come on, can you do something about this little boy? He wants to see you. You know, he wants a benediction. And Lord Vishnu says, okay, but then before he goes to see him, he inquires, well, who's his spiritual master? That is a very, very important point, that Dhruva Maharaj, he does so much austerity, etc., but Lord Vishnu, he doesn't care about so much about his austerity. What he cares about is, does he have the blessings of the devotees? Who's his spiritual master? Narada Muni says he's my disciple, and therefore straight away Vishnu says, okay, I'll go see him. And it's like, this is as we can feel, okay, I can do so much in my devotional life. I can get up super early, I can chant all these rounds, I can do Nirjala Ekadashi, etc. But in the end, all this is actually the only asset we have in spiritual life is the blessings of the devotees. We don't have any qualification, but like in no other time could you just chant 16 rounds and follow 4 regular principles like that. If you see you're around in the time of Mahaprabhu, etc., that wouldn't have been cutting it, But because we're following the instructions of Srila Prabhupada, therefore we have Prabhupada's blessings. Then by following the process he set out, then we can reach the ultimate success. Whereas if Prabhupada hadn't said this and we would just followed it, although we could follow the same process, we could have exactly the same morning program, we could follow the same sadhana, but if this hadn't been, if Prabhupada hadn't instructed like this, then it wouldn't be so potent. Of course, there's still nice things about it, but it's the fact that the pure devotee of the Lord has given these instructions, and then we're surrendering to these instructions. That's where the potency comes from. Like the number 16 in itself isn't magical. It's the fact that Prabhupada instructed like this. Yes. So then Dhruva Maharaj, he gets darshan of Lord Vishnu. And Lord Vishnu, he touches him with the 5-year-old boy. He wants to offer prayers. He doesn't know what to say. So the Lord touches him with his conch shell in his head, and he's sort of offering these beautiful prayers. And the most famous of which is he's saying that I had so many desires before, and all these are simply like pieces of broken glass. Very interesting analogy of broken glass. I think like what use is broken glass? It's got no use, but it can. You see in the distance, it can look very shiny, glittery, but actually it causes a lot of harm. Some glass gets in your throat. It can a lot of pain and suffering, but you're attracted by the allure of the shine, because you think it may be something valuable, but ultimately there's no value to it. I say, so simply everything I was desiring before is like pieces of broken glass. Simply now that I've seen you, I'm fully satisfied. But then this is a very interesting point. As explained in this verse, is in Krishna still fulfills all those desires that he previously had. And I always wonder why, because Dhruva Maharaj he's now a pure devotee. Previously you could say he had some anger issues. He had some anger issues a bit harsh, but like some prestige. He wanted to get this kingdom. He wanted to do better than his half brother, who's the rightful heir to inherit the kingdom. I guess he wanted to prove himself. This Kshatriya wants to prove himself to these austerities. Whereas now he's seen the Lord, he's a pure devotee. Anya Barasita Shunyam, Gyanaka Majanavritam. He doesn't have any of these desires. But nonetheless, Krishna gives them to him. He fulfills. And because you feel like, what a headache would it have to be to manage? He gets, Dhruvaloka, and he's basically the emperor of, just such a huge, vast, practically the whole universe, I think he's the emperor of. I can't begin to imagine the managerial headache of having to look after that. You're trying to be a pure devotee and you got to deal with so many. And then moreover, you see, he had some resentment towards both his stepmom and his brother, his stepbrother, his half brother. And Krishna also fulfills these desires. Krishna arranges for his half brother to be killed. It's quite brutal, actually. Previously Dhruva Maharaj, he's young, he gets offended, he does some austerity, he wants some revenge, he wants to get this in return. And because he had these sort of, you can say almost like childish motivations, I want to beat my brother, get better than him. But he ends up getting that desire fulfilled. And so his brother gets killed by some sort of rakshasas, or some sort of demoniac race. And then it's interesting, this Dhruva Maharaj, he's now the emperor of this entire vast array, and his brother gets killed by this invading force. Is it rakshasas who kills his brother, or Yavan? I can't remember. And he responds, because now he gets on well with his brother now. Previously he didn't get on well with his brother, but he sees Lord Vishnu. Then he gets on well with his brother, and then his brother gets killed as a result of his desire before he saw Lord Vishnu. Okay, and then so when his brother gets killed, he goes and he takes revenge on these people who killed him. Primarily, he's a king. He has to demonstrate that if anyone attacks, this land, he goes way over the Call of Duty. He becomes very. The reason we're in the material world is because we don't know what it is that we want. The example's given, the child is crying to his mother saying, I want the moon. Can I have the moon? He's pointing at the sky saying, give me the moon. I'm like, what? What are you even going to do with the moon? He's like, and then for the mother, she's very smart. She gives the child like a little mirror, and you can look at the moon in the mirror. But yeah, a lot of the main process in spiritual life is that, cultivating proper desire for Krishna. That's why we, come to Arti first thing in the morning. That's why we associate with devotees. That's why we read all these pastimes, is actually cultivate the real desire. And the real desire is simply, loving devotion to the servants uh, of the Supreme Lord. And this desire comes. It's like magnetism. You take a non-magnetic piece of metal and you rub it against, some magnet. Then it develops also this magnetism. So similarly, we have so many other motivations, but we associate with devotees who are sincere in their desire to serve Krishna, to serve Srila Prabhupada, to serve the spiritual master. Then we end up picking up on this desire. It's infectious. It's very profound. Similarly, if we associate material people, then we pick up their desires. So we have to be careful who we're associating with. So I was sort of thinking, like, why is it that we have this pastime of Dhruva Maharaj, and Krishna is demonstrating that even if you have so many other desires, you worship me, and your desires get fulfilled, and you become a pure devotee. I think we have to understand, like, we take the spiritual life, and we can come to the process of perhaps Krishna consciousness. There's a clear process which is very beneficial. You'd follow these regulations. You don't eat meat. You don't eat fish. You don't gamble. You don't have illicit sex. No intoxication. This is good. You chant 16 rounds. Maybe do some sankirtan. So this is a nice process. But simply by being in the process, is this enough? Simply by going through the motions, is this enough? One said, Prabhupada said, you do this, you'll come back to me. You'll go back to Krishna. But nonetheless, we're seeing from this pastime of Dhruva Maharaj that perhaps there's an incentive to, as quickly as possible, come to the platform where we're not desiring anything external. So many people, they come to spiritual life and they have their ulterior motives. Krishna talks about in the Gita, there's 4 kinds of pious people who approach him. Chatur vida bhajanti mam jnana sukriti norjana artartaki jigyasur jnani chat bharatarshava. That there's those who are distressed, those desiring. Some people, they're distressed, they want to come to spiritual life to get free from all this suffering, whether it's materially they're suffering, mentally they're suffering. We're all suffering, so it's a good reason to come. And you come to spiritual life, you experience a lot more peace. Some people, they simply they get fed. This is you get a shelter over your head. It's a very, very basic material comforts they're getting. This is the reason they come to spiritual life. But still, it's there's nothing wrong with that in a sense. But it has to progress beyond there. Similarly, some people are wanting wealth, artha, and so by engaging in a life is subscribed by sort of the Vedas, we can get a lot more success. We can control our mind, we become successful at work, we can do sacrifices, make auspicious things happen in our life. And again, Krishna is saying, anyone who's got any desire to come to me, this is fine, but they cannot stay at this platform. We could also be inquisitive. We want to know more about how the world is working. We want to perhaps know about some mystic processes, mystic yoga, etc. And for that reason, we come to Krishna consciousness, and that's fine. But if we just stay on that platform, we're not going to develop pure love for Krishna. And there's also some are wanting to know about the absolute truth. He says, of all of these, that one is most dear to me. So we have a duty to come to the platform of wanting to know what is the absolute truth. Because we can come here for any reason. Krishna is very, very open and very liberal. You can have any desires whatsoever, and you can come to Krishna, and desires get purified. But we also have a duty, an incentive to as quickly as possible come to the platform of desiring pure devotional service. Because that's the ultimate end. That's where we're going. The purpose of this movement is Prabhupada says, to make Paramahamsas. we're going back to Krishna. That's the whole goal here. And we cannot go back to Krishna unless you're Anyabalasita Sunyam, unless you have no other motivation whatsoever than simply to render unallowed devotional service to Krishna, or even better, to the Krishna's devotees. You know. So what's the point in just like waiting around, letting the process pure? You know, we should as quickly as possible come to this platform. And it's not that we have to do anything external to come to this platform. It's not that we have to do another process. It's just that we have to properly, you know, we can chant with real attention. You know, then the purification really happens. You know, it's that you go to clean some room, and you go in there and you got like a duster and you sort of just wave it around and you're listening to music and you're chatting to someone else at the same time. Then a little bit of the dust might fall off and the room might be a little bit cleaner, but you're going to be there for a long time. Whereas if you have utmost, you know, focus and determination, and you're looking at every single like corner and crevice, and you've got the right tools, and you're getting every single little bit of dust, and then you get the dust first, and the dust goes on the floor, and you get that, and you're systematic and you're clear, then of course the room's going to get cleaner much faster, and it's going to be a much actually a much more enjoyable process for yourself as well. There's no point in just hanging around, doing things slowly when the ultimate goal is there. And the ultimate goal is, you know, the highest possible thing. So we may as well get there as fast as possible. So this way we have to. It says Tivrena Bhakti Yogena, that yeah, this verse is quoted in the purport. Akama Sava Kamava Moksha Kama Daradi. We can desire everything, we can desire nothing, we can desire liberation. But ultimately, Tivrena Bhakti Yogena, the Bhakti Yoga has to be intense. You know, there has to be a real intensity in our practice. We have to fundamentally be aware that, you know, I could die at any second. You know, Prabhupada said, the purpose of philosophy is to stare death in the face, to be so fundamentally, you know, cognizant of the fact that this life is so incredibly, you know, blinking. It's just it's a speck, and we have, you know, an incredible opportunity. The opportunity is there. There's nothing more we could possibly need to perfect our lives. But what is required is intensity, and intensity is ultimately it's an intensity of consciousness. You know, we can do so many external activities. Actually, was it last week? I was having a very difficult time on Sankirtan. I phoned up one devotee, and he was telling me he'd been instructed recently that you should do less. You know, before he was doing quite a lot, doing lots of Sankirtan, also lots of some other services, and he was being stretched quite thin. He said, no, do less, but what you're doing, do it more intensely. You know, when you read, like, read intensely. What does it mean to read intensely? It doesn't mean to read fast. It means to apply the entirety of your consciousness. You know, like if you're pressing something intensely, you're really pushing at it. You're directing all your consciousness at one activity. You know, ekaha kurunandana, single pointed. So if you're reading, you do it intensely, and maybe you only have half an hour to read that day because you're busy. Well, you properly focus, you know, and then you're chanting. Okay, so maybe you don't have time to chant 64 rounds, but you chant 16 rounds with utmost attention, with, you know, real determination. Okay, you're on Sankirtan. Now you don't like. Perhaps you could go out, you know, be on the street by 9 o'clock and get back at, you know, 7, and, you know, be on the street for ages. But if you don't have actually the right mentality when you're there, then you could actually not have much of an impact. Whereas if you're really intense and you're on the street for a shorter period of time, you can actually have much more of an impact. And Krishna sees that, okay, this person's able to render some devotional service just now, therefore I'll send some people along. Now, if Krishna sees this person's completely spaced out, then I'm not going to send along these people who are actually wanting this transcendental knowledge, because they're not able, you know, this person's not able to deliver it just now because he's a bit spaced out. He's not really serious about it. He's just there because he wants to, you know, get some donations. Whereas that person's like sincerely wanting to serve and spread the glories of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then Krishna will just send people along. So this is what everything we have to do has to be intense. We have to sleep intensely, you know. Like I'm not so good at that one yet, but and so So I'd be interested to hear what devotees' thoughts were on this, understanding that one of the lessons we can learn from the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj is that, as quickly as possible, we should get free from all these other desires we have, because they will get fulfilled, and you got to be careful what you wish for. Imagine that. Imagine actually, because of your desire before you become a pure devotee, you desire your brother to, maybe not get killed, but at least get, put out of the way, and then he does. How bad you'd feel about that, but it's ultimately you're the one responsible. See, I wondered, do devotees have any thoughts on this pastime, this idea of having to come as quickly as possible beyond all these external desires?
Hare Krishna. Yeah, that verse, Ekeha Krunandana, Bhogeshwaya Prasaktanam. So there's usually when there's some instruction in the Vedic literature, there's the don'ts and the do's. So the don't is, don't become distracted by bhoga and aishwarya, by sense enjoyment and by material opulence. Ekeha Krunandana, to become single-pointed, to be focused. So that's a practice, and it all begins from chanting Hare Krishna in the morning. If we keep our mind, keep on bringing our mind back to the focus and becoming more practiced in that, and regardless of however we're feeling physically or mentally, just keep on focusing on the holy name. If there's anything else going on other than the holy name when we're chanting, then there's we need to keep bringing our mind back to hearing the mantra. Of course, it's not a mechanical thing as well. We have to pray to the Lord. We can't just capture the Lord by mechanical means. So it takes devotion. Prabhupada said that it's not possible to make advancement in spiritual life without undergoing some difficulty. So we don't have to look for difficulties, but we are tested to practice our devotional service. Whatever level we're at, we'll be tested even to see if we're going to maintain it. It's not, Krishna conscience is considered to be an uphill climb. It's not possible to get to the top just by going up some and then stopping. If you stop, then you're either going to have to go up or go down. You can't just stay on the side of the mountainside.
Yeah, you have to constantly keep giving more. You can never be just sort of static.
Yeah, but we actually don't realise how much time we waste within a day. There's a strange kind of feedback on this thing. Is it set up weird or something? It's just about ready to feedback. Maybe it can go down a little bit in the volume or something. Thanks. Hare Krishna. So, I forgot what was in there.
How much time you waste in the
Yeah.
day.
So one year I decided that I wasn't getting enough time to read. I was doing a lot of driving, cooking, Sankirtan. So I was thinking, I'm not getting to read. But then I realised actually there's nothing stopping me reading. So I took a book with me wherever I went, and I thought I'm going to try and read the whole Bhagavatam this year. And I did, because every spare minute I had, I pulled the Bhagavatam out and I carried on from where I left off. And then I found so much opportunity for reading. We have so much time for other things which are inconsequential really. But if we use our time wisely, then we can make advancement very quickly. So intense doesn't necessarily mean to say we have to furrow our brow and be sharp with the devotees. Prabhu, you're Maya, get out of my way. I'm reading, shut up, get out the ashram. But very much in the footsteps of the Goswamis, Rupanugas, is that they bowed down in scheduled measurements. Everything they did was calculated, so they were very much aware of the time they had, and they utilized everything and every moment in Krishna service. Some thoughts.
Yeah, I've heard it as well that Krishna's in control of time, and so if we're sincerely desiring, to have more time for sadhana, etc., he will provide it, but he's always looking to see how they're utilizing it. So you would desire some more time, the time arises, and if we properly utilize it, then time, Whereas if the person, if we start just wasting the time, etc., not properly utilizing it, then it's okay. If they have this too much time, it's actually a danger, so it takes it away. Which is strange. I've sort of noticed when sometimes I have less time, Krishna's sort of seeing that I need actually to be engaged more.
Also, another thing is, Krishna will put us in situations where we have the opportunity to take an easy way out or to continue. And continuing with it, it becomes intense, but it's purification. Just like they say, if you take coal and you put it under intense pressure, it becomes diamond. So our hearts are considered to be like coal, and Krishna has put us under some pressure, and we accept that pressure and carry on with our service, then we become out shining on the other side. But if we want to keep taking the easy way, then what happens is that eventually we don't get to where we're going, and time is passing, but yet we become dissatisfied, thinking that the process doesn't work or something, or that we're mistreated, or so many things. But so to accept when there's some intense situation there which we never expected, we can make an intense endeavor ourselves, but also to accept Krishna's arrangement, which may bring some intensity, and continue with the process and taking shelter of devotees that will guide us through it.
Is that actually true? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, a nice question. And for me, which as I was sort of thinking of this pastime, sort of reading a little bit, it seemed to be emphasizing that we have to be careful what it is that we're desiring, and as quickly as possible move away from these not so favorable desires. It's like Bhagavatam is like demonstrating things for us for our own purification in a sense. But it's not so clear. So perhaps you have some realizations you could share. Mm.
Vaishnava being treated unfairly, Vaishnava being other Krishna, and he will still take I know he has kind of deserved it, although not deserving. But another Vaishnava, he won't just take it, no, he will go and take action. I think I heard that because Dhruva Maharaj's Tattva was offending towards him.
So before he was even a devotee,
Yeah, even then, like in
because he was a,
that
no, that's very interesting. Like,
because also externally to see that spirit, okay, that judging being externally and discarding externally, except that what he can do. Although she himself like said worship Lord Vishnu, and when we went into worshipping Lord Vishnu, then okay, what he can do. And I think we see in Srimad Bhagavatam and Dhruva Maharaj returns from his meditation after getting the from Vishnu, his father and even his stepmom, I think, comes and greets and everything that. So, yeah, like was it Dhruva Maharaj still carrying the desire that my brother did something wrong to me, I want the revenge from my brother, or was it that desire, or did he already actually forgive his brother instead of not?
yeah, I think as often as example when he takes revenge on the Yakshasas, he's clearly sort of. It looks like he's motivated by feelings of guilt. You know, there's times where he feels somewhat responsible because he acts in a way which is sort of unbefitting to him.
Somewhere in those translations of words like he was kind of Varnashram, Dharma, or Kshatriya, so say that he was Kshatriya spirit was so high, what the so for us to not lose focus of the ultimate goal, ultimate thing, even though at darshan of Lord Vishnu, but still not attain, so not to lose sight and can still get carried away or sidetracked. Kshatriya spirit was so tremendous, and then towards the end he gave up kingdom and went into say, doing further austerities and meditation and life thinking of
He had a very strong Kshatriya spirit. And even as a Kshatriya, he became a devotee. Now, if he had been, just because he wasn't a Brahmin, the Brahmin would have been more tolerant and wouldn't have taken an insult from his stepmother. And he wouldn't have, went to perform austerities and, stuff like that. Because he would already have been, peaceful and tolerant, etc. But he wasn't a Brahmin. Just because he wasn't a Brahmin doesn't mean to say he's not a devotee. So this is he was a Kshatriya, but he was a devotee. And of course, Kshatriyas have to do many different duties. It was only when he went over the top, then was he required to dial it back a bit. And Prabhupada also had a Kshatriya spirit. He could be Brahminical as much as any Brahmin, of course, but he had a Kshatriya spirit, which is necessary for preaching as well. Kshatriya, sometimes devotees get this thing that Kshatriya means go and learn some martial arts, and now they call themselves a Kshatriya. That's a very narrow-minded understanding of what a Kshatriya is. It's maybe one aspect of it, but it also requires administration and leadership, things like that. You have to be careful of these pitfalls. Learning martial arts is not an easy way back to Godhead. Oh, I'm a Kshatriya, I'll just do my martial arts and I'll go back to Godhead. It's serve and swerve. And then you're just waiting for that opportunity when you can knock somebody's block off. It might never come. But Prabhupada wanted us to be Vaishnavas, so which means sometimes we act in the capacity of a Kshatriya, a Sudra, Vaishya. It's like many of us are acting in the capacity of a Vaishya, selling books, but it's not in the mundane category of Vaishya, because the books that we're selling are transcendental books. The funds are being used in Krishna's service, so it's transcendental activity. And then we may be Brahmin, so in the course of a day we may be all four. But like you were saying in the beginning of the class, Prabhupada said it's a movement of Paramahamsas, so which means we're not fixed to any particular caste, and we're prepared to do any service for Krishna, whatever's needed.
Kantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai Gaur Premanande. Gaur.